Hi, and welcome to Decentering White Women, a journey to self-empowerment. My name is Vonda Page, and I am your host. I am excited to welcome you to episode 1. The introduction is on how we got here. And today, what I'm going to talk about is, what inspired this concept. I'm going to talk about the journey of, white-centric standards and how that's evolved over time. And I'm also going to talk very specifically about the ways that Black women have been uniquely affected by the dynamics of power when it comes to white and Black women, especially in professional spaces. And then finally, if we have enough time, I'm going to end talking about some of the common misconceptions of the relationship between white and Black women. And then we'll take it from there. So, the point of this podcast, y'all, is to support Black women in their professional and personal lives by helping Black women learn some of the things that has taken me a really long time to do, but in an accelerated manner. And what I am excited to help Black women unpack for themselves is our focus on whiteness, white people, and white women specifically, and how that has harmed us. And what we want to do is we want to focus on things that are going to support our well-being. And the things that I believe support Black women's well-being the most are rest, which is required for healing, and healing, which is required for joy. And joy is what is required for us to really win at life. And I think about my colleague and friend Tammy Chiolo when we were talking about our 2024 goals and picking out our words for the year. I mean, mine was coming. It probably was supposed to be 22 or 21, but my word was coming, and my word for 2024 is rest, and her word is joy. And I thought about the bridge in between rest and joy, which is what I was working on in 23 and 22 and 2020. Since 2018, 2019, I've been working on healing in a really deep way, but really a lot since 2019. And I could not really envision the amount of rest that is necessary for us to actually heal. I couldn't envision it until I got to a point in this year, in December, literally a month ago, where I was so exhausted in every way that I needed to take a break. And I decided to go on a hiatus, a sabbatical, and unplugged for like 4 to 6 weeks. And to my surprise, the people that I had brought into my community, into my program, into the mentorship, decided that they wasn't down with that. They decided that I wasn't allowed to take a break. They decided that I wasn't allowed to need my personal time. They decided that I was not human enough to not give them what they needed. And so they decided to leave. And at first I was like so devastated, in a way, like surprised, but like in the way that they did it. Because I'm like, all I did for y'all, everything I've been doing, everything I put in and everything I gave. And then I said, damn, Vonda, that's what Black women been doing. White women been telling us to kiss their ass from day one. And we've been saying, even though I did this for you, and even though I did that for you, and even though I did this for you, and even though I did that for you. Yeah, even though we did all of that. Because at the end of the day, white women, white people, like I said a long time ago, they don't have empathy. But even more so than that, they've not done any of the requisite work to develop or build up any empathy, nor have they developed or built any love for themselves such that they care about themselves enough that they could see another person in themselves. And that is the crux of the failure to change when it comes to any type of healing work, whether it comes to unpacking anti-Blackness, whether it comes to anti-racism work, or any of it. And so that support that you will never get from white women is only going to come from yourself, and is only going to come from other people who look like you, who have a similar experience, who have a similar background. White women, white people don't want black people to have equity, and definitely not full human rights. Because if we have human rights, who is going to do the work for them? And I'm going to tell anybody out here who listening who may be like, oh my God, this stuff this lady is saying, this is crazy. This sounds extreme. I'm going to walk you through so many stories, so many examples. I'm going to walk you through reports. I'm going to walk you through things as we go through this podcast journey together. And you're going to see that, yeah, white people do expect us to do everything for them. And when they don't, they strike out and they get violently angry. Violently. Now, whether that violence is financial, sexual, emotional, psychological, physical, or verbal, it depends on proximity and power. But make no mistake, white people and white women have the power. And because they've had that power, that is why we have zero human rights. and the entire system of structural inequity, structural subjugation is perpetuated and run by white women to harm black people. And so black women, it is our job, black women, to decenter white women, focus on our own rest and healing and ultimate joy. And that's what this podcast is going to be about. And I am super excited to have y'all here. So let's get started. So, I, for years and years, have been in the technology field. And some of you may know that story starts off as my first job at Mr. Parker's Auto Tags, auto tag spot. Basically, if you imagine like a UPS, a post office, a copy shop, Office Max, plus we did all of these car type things. So it was like a DMV and an Office Max Staples post office kind of situation. And I was part of the summer job program, and where they used to give us all these tests when I was in school. I was in this thing called, they used to call it mentally gifted or whatever, and then they started calling it academically talented, and then they started calling it like, I don't know, something else. But anyway, we used to get all these tests all the time, and I used to be tested all the time and have to go to these programs and all these special things to learn all this different stuff when I was a kid. And I started becoming familiar with technology and using computers and stuff when I was like 13 or whatever. Anyway, I got picked to be in this program, and they were like, okay, well, since I didn't want to be in the medical field because my mom wanted me to be a doctor, and I was in all these programs for people that wanted to go to medicine. I was like, I don't want to do that. So they said, okay, well, then what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I'm going to be a businesswoman. So they was like, okay, well, we put you in this business program. So I go to this job on the first day, and I'm, bopping with my Walkman, and I'm listening to When Doves Cry, because Purple Rain had just come out. We had saw the movie, and so everybody who had the Walkman, I had the Walkman and I had the CD, so I was doing my thing. And boppity boo, I go into the office, and Mr. Parker tells me that my job to figure out this fax machine. So it was a guy in there from IBM. He was or Xerox, and he was installing this fax machine. And basically, it was my job to figure it out. So I took the big old binder home. This binder was so big, y'all. He tried to give me like a bag to put it in. I couldn't even put it in a bag. I had to try to carry it. It was really heavy. It probably was about 15 pounds looking back, because I know it was heavier than my bowling ball. And I had used that example when I was thinking about, well, damn, I knew how heavy this thing was. And so anyway, Mr. Parker tells me to figure out this fax machine so that I can use it to do his work. And so I took the binder home. I started figuring out. I looked at the pieces. Came in the next day. I did my thing. And basically, it took me about 2.5 days to get it all figured out. And then I started incorporating the snail mail, or what we call USPS postal mail, into the things that could be faxed to the DMV, things that could be faxed to different insurance companies, things that could be faxed to other businesses. Then I started figuring out how to give people, we set it up so that people could receive fax from like their lawyer's office and other businesses. So I started figuring out ways that Mr. Parker could incorporate all of this. And it was pretty cool. So I grew up in the 70s, right? This was in the 80s and it was in Philadelphia and it was in a black neighborhood. So Mr. Parker was a black man. It was a black business in a neighborhood with other black businesses, and it was all black people working there. And it really was the beginning, not only of me knowing how to problem solve, knowing how to use technology, knowing how to do business processes and learning that, but just feeling empowered and feeling, just empowered to solve problems, empowered to learn, empowered to grow, empowered to be amazing. And I was determined to learn and determined to be, the best at this, right? So I learned that fax machine and then helped Mr. Parker incorporate it into his business processes. And the super cool thing was I did such an amazing job at that, that he referred me to a lady, Mrs. Angela. She had a daycare, and I worked for her that next summer, installed a fax machine, and I worked for Mr. Parker. And then that third summer, before I went to college, she opened up a second daycare because of the work that I helped her do. And I worked for her through the fall as well, and during the school semester too. But to be able to help three entrepreneurs, right? This was before I was even 17 years old, right? I was able to help three entrepreneurs in such a way that I was even able to figure out how to learn for myself, how to run business and what was involved, because after that I started my own consulting business. And so what began as a summer job at Parker's Auto Tags became a journey of empowerment through technology, which shaped my trajectory in unforeseen ways. Really, it really did. And then from that point, after I learned how to make things efficient, I just kept on going. And I remember at 15 just feeling so empowered. And despite, the challenges, I had this amazing opportunity to really become a CEO at an early level, to really become a leader at a really early level, right? Time in my life, and to really start thinking about a vision and a future and what I wanted at a really, really early level. And so that, like history of just kind of like how I started on this concept of decenter white women was because I think about how I did not ever think or plan to have to center white women, and how it just was so subtle over time. So when I was young, right, in my teens, early 20s, I never thought about anybody when it came to how do I want to run my business? How do I want to go about what I want to do? All I knew is that I wanted to have a communications company and have a business where I was able to help people when it comes to communications. Now, in the 80s, nope, we did not have the World Wide Web. So I didn't realize that I was going to, be an internet, have my own tech platform, right? I didn't even think of something like that. But obviously, right, my future self back then knew, right? Because here we are in 2020, I founded Leaders Learn Radical Change. And so 2020, that summer, it stands as a watershed moment in history, probably for a lot of us. And for me, it really exposed the deep-seated roots of anti-Blackness. And they've thrived for centuries. And after George Floyd was murdered, and I saw not only the internet response, but the corporate response, not only in my own company where I worked at the time, but just, around the globe and specifically in Silicon Valley, I knew that I was at a point of no return. One of the things that I did right at that time was I really started to get more engaged in social media. So I had been on LinkedIn for, I don't know, maybe since about '06 or '07 or something like that. And I had built up a decent little following. And I think I had gotten to about, maybe 3,000, 4,000 followers by this time. And by the time I got off of LinkedIn in 2022, when they kicked me off, I was at about 7,000 followers, and I probably lost about 3,000 since I haven't been on there. And maybe some of those people just left the platform or whatever. Um, but I got more active in social media. And when I got more active on social media was when I really started to get swept in and swept up. I started really believing that there were some white women out here who were considering themselves these good white women who really get it because they are in the amen corner of black women. They are, agreeing with black women's posts. They are, speaking out. They are seemingly involved. And I started to learn that here is where white women go to perform. White women go to the internet to perform. So if they're not in a local theater, right, or in something, like they go to the internet to perform. And what happens is, right, because black people and black women, we want so desperately to believe that white people are not as racist and anti-black and cruel and hateful as they are. We want to believe that so much that we give them the benefit of the doubt. We want to believe it so much that we allow ourselves to be gaslit. We want to believe it so much that we take their word when they say they have good intentions, even though they keep on hurting us over and over and over. And addition to that, right, I wasn't really working and unpacking my white woman pain at this time. At this time, I was trying to just like survive corporate America. Like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm here and I got to work with people who hate black people and so much more. And so it was such a difficult and devastating thing. And so I'm the type of person that I can't lay down and just die. I can't lay down and wallow in my pain and wallow in my sadness. When something is bad, I have to put energy in to go in the opposite direction. So that's when I founded Leaders Learn Radical Change. And today, Leaders Learn Radical Change is almost at 4 years. We'll be 4 years old in July of 2020. But at 3.5 years old, Leaders Learn Radical Change has evolved into a technology optimization solution. We're a learning and leadership culture platform, and specifically we house two amazing entities. The first one is called Unleashing Empathy, a domestic nonprofit which I co-founded with my partner and colleague and friend Tammy Triolo. Unleash Empathy is an educational foundation where we focus on empathy and leadership as the key components for improving workplace culture. And so we do that together through a series of masterclasses as well as corporate mentorships. And the second organization that's hosted there is called Black Women X. And Black Women X is a nonprofit organization that works very specifically to empower black women's well-being through rest, healing, and joy, which we do through sponsored respites, retreats, and rest services. And then the third thing is that the Leaders Learn Radical Change platform is a home and a hub for creators, coaches, consultants, and small business CEOs who are curating their own customers, communities, and clients in a space that is free from harm, in a space where you can do everything at once. So you can communicate, collaborate, and connect all together. If you just imagine all of the bigger platforms with all of the bells and whistles, but in a contained, private, secure, and much more smaller setting that you can customize and manage yourself, and you can do it out of the watchful eye of Big Brother, Google, or Big Daddy, social media, or whoever else. And so anybody that understands anything about the technology era, right, that we've been in for the past 30 years understands the importance of privacy and understands the importance of having your own platform, right? Especially when you're really trying to do something and grow. Because I'm going to tell you, if y'all don't know, if you haven't experienced it as a black woman, there's nobody that wants you to be successful in corporate America. So no matter how far you get, no matter how high up, there's going to be somebody to say, nope, this is it. And even if they let you get one of those positions like the president of Harvard or the president of MIT or the president of CVS or whatever the heck, right? They only going to let you be there for a minute, and they letting you know that you're a token, you're a figurehead. And if you don't do and say what we say and be the acceptable Negro, then your ass is out. And that is basically what I experienced after George Floyd in corporate America. And I'm so glad that I had, decided that I knew I was going to have to leave anyway. But anti-blackness really showed out after George Floyd was killed. And it showed in a way that was painful, but it doesn't take away from black people still wanting what we want. We still want that approval. We still want that acceptance. We still want that access, whether that access is to safety or to resources, right? And we still want that allowance, because in this country and in most places around the world, black people are the bottom, right, of the citizenry. We are the bottom of the society in every place. I mean, even in Africa, in the places like South Africa, it's disgusting. And so that realization of how anti-blackness shows up like started smacking me in the face harder and harder after George Floyd was killed. So one example, I went to a conference at work, and the conference was Afrotech. They sent a white lady there to be our monitor. Why? Why is a white lady coming to an Afrotech conference when it's supposed to be black people? Because black people are not allowed to be alone. So after George Floyd, one of the things that happened was, black people were having a hard time, and I was working with the executives, and I had asked for if we could have, a psychologist come in and help us deal with it. And they would not let us have a psychologist come in with only black people in the room. I brought so many specialists and experts in that they would not allow any of the black employees to talk to a black person alone. And then they hired a coon woman, black woman, to, pull down all the momentum and get everything all messed up. It was crazy. But all of that, and then I saw how like white and black women, work together to bring down another black woman. Like it just was really a lot. It was really a lot. But the pattern, right, of anti-blackness in white women is something that, you pick up, but then you try to make an excuse for it. You gaslight yourself. The reason you gaslight yourself, the reason we make excuses, the reason we let them get away with it is because of Jim Crow etiquette. It's because of the right to comfort. Where have black women ever been able to say to white people, hey, you're doing something fucked up and I want you to stop? Without consequence. I would dare to say nowhere. Whenever we have ever dared to do anything to upset a white person, it has resulted in harm coming to us. And that hasn't changed. And that is the dynamic that I learned in the mentorship with several of my white women clients, that I was like, damn, Vonda, how did you forget that and let yourself become a victim of them? Because as soon as I needed to take my time off for my own health, then the white violence came out at me. So when I think about the characteristics of white supremacy culture, which I'm calling dominant culture, I'm just calling them dominant culture characteristics because the dominant culture is who is in control. And maybe I'll from time to time call it oppressor characteristics. But it's the dominant culture, right? The dominant culture characteristics: perfectionism, sense of urgency, defensiveness, quantity over quality, worship of the written word, paternalism, either or thinking, power hoarding, fear of open conflict, individualism, progress is bigger, more. objectivity, right to comfort, one right way, and claiming a monopoly on truth. How can you combat that? How can you combat that? How can you combat that? So let's just take one. Let's take power hoarding. Let's take power hoarding. Power hoarding is clinging to power, right? And the clinging to power is the thing that is why black people don't have any human rights in this country, because white people refuse to let us have them. They have all of the power, and they conditionally grant power to Latino people and Asian people and lighter skinned Middle Eastern people that don't wear hijabs or turbans or burqas or any coverings, right? Like they can grant conditional whiteness to those people. Racially ambiguous people, light skinned black people who act as white as possible, who look as white as possible, who almost have a white presenting features, Eurocentric. Maybe they get granted conditional white proximity from time to time. But white people have all the power. They have all of the power. And the other big one is right to comfort. Comfort should never been disturbed. We can never disturb white people. We could not say, white people, you cannot come to a meeting when black people want to grieve. No, because white people have to view our trauma and get off on it. They get off on it. Just like they got off on lynchings. That's why they get off on talking about slavery. That's why there's so many slave movies. Who you think is making the movies? You think John Singleton got enough money to make all the movies, and Tyler Perry got enough money to make all them slave movies? Tyler Perry ain't even made most of the slave movies. Those movies was made by Steven Spielberg and other people. Tarantino. The slave movies was made by white people because white people get off on that. They get off on calling us the N-word. They get off on it. And those stressors that come to black women as a result of not only dealing with dominant culture all damn day, every day, it's built into everything. Think about at work how you got to focus on the scale and the size all the time. It's all superficial. Man, I worked at one of the big consulting firms. And when I tell you, every day I spent 6.5 hours on PowerPoint prettiness. Prettiness. Not the content, but the prettiness, right? Fear of open conflict. You cannot have any confrontation with a white person. So if we don't have confrontation, how are we ever going to change anti-blackness? How are we ever going to have an impact on anti-blackness as long as we can't make white people uncomfortable and we cannot have any type of confrontation? So the dominant culture itself is the thing that precludes any successful partnerships for black liberation. They've had 500 years to do it, and they've never done it. Even if they said after 1860s, okay, we can't keep black people chained up, except for the ones that can't read and the ones that don't know they're free and the ones that literally have nowhere to go. But everybody else, we can't keep them chained up. Oh, well, never mind. We're going to start a school system and a prison system. So anyway, we can't keep them chained up, but it just looks different. But while we have that going on, we have to give black people the illusion that they are going to someday have what we have. So we'll use things like Christianity. We'll use things like, government and different things to make people think that there's whatever. But here we are in 2023 and black people still have what? Less than 1% of the wealth. I saw a TikTok and I had to scroll so fast and I was so disappointed, but it happens to me all the time. I had to scroll because it was a black woman arguing with somebody about what one of the presidents has done for black people, talking about we're not informed and this is why you need to vote in your local elections. And I might be getting two videos confused because one was a black dude talking about why people need to vote in their local elections. And I said, I'm going to ask somebody right now, who's the president of your school board. If you voted in your local election, who's the president of your school board? Who's the superintendent of the school board? Who is your council person? Who is it? Who is your congressperson? And what have they done for you or the people in your zip code? I guarantee the answer is you don't know. And the answer is you don't know again. Because people do not know. People do not know. Because people blindly do what they've been conditioned to do, which is go every November and every other November and every other May and vote. That's what they do. They know. And so people are brainwashed. And then you can't say nothing because then they get defensive, right? Individualism, promoting their own self-interest, right? If it doesn't align with white people, they're not going to do it. So why did I allow myself to think that just because there was a few white people talking about equity, a few white people talking about gender pay, a few white people talking about this or that any of it had any kind of relevance or meaning to black people or black women? Because that's what I've been conditioned to believe. That's what I've been taught to believe. That makes it acceptable for white people. Because it makes white people comfortable for me to be like, oh, I don't think you're racist. But if I look at a white person and I say, yeah, I think you're a racist motherfucker, I know you are anti-black as shit. That makes white people uncomfortable. We're not allowed to do that in our society. And we couldn't even grieve the death of a man that looks like everybody's uncle or cousin. George Floyd looked like somebody in every black person family. He looked so black, so African. He looked like somebody that every black person knows. And I think that's why it resonated so much. I think if George Floyd had been a mixed race person with long straight hair or wavy hair or super, super light skin person with, different type of hair, I don't know if it would have resonated the same way. George Floyd cried out for his mama. That was so and white people still didn't care and they still did nothing. Companies made millions and millions and billions of dollars of pledges. Where's any of that money? Come to find out that they had a whole BLM was a fake thing, that they had a bunch of operatives and people go in and make this whole fake organization to then talk shit about it and blah, blah, blah. Just like with Southern Poverty Law Center, just like with the NAACP, these fake organizations that were supposed to be for black people's improvement, how when white people spun them up, how when white people financed them. Martin Luther King got shot dead in his face. Malcolm X got shot dead. Stokely Carmichael. Where's everybody at? People is either in Cuba or dead. Some people are in, I guess Bali and Africa and different places, right? That got away. But what happened to all the black revolutionaries? What happened to every independent president in Africa? What happened to all the people who've been fighting for black liberation? They get bought off or they get put underground. And we know this. And so we stay distracted, though, trying to stay alive, right? We stay distracted with all of the pain, all of the trauma and all the harm that they constantly doing, whether it's in the workplace or like now, eggs are $8 a dozen. The hell? Eggs was 99 cents for years. Then they went up to $2. Then they went up to $3. And then I know the brown eggs and different cage-free eggs went up to $4. And now in some places, eggs are $8 and $9. Huh? So like $1 an egg to buy a dozen of eggs sometimes, right? Almond milk is now $6. Okay, this stuff is crazy and it's for a reason. So people know that they only have a certain amount of leeway when it comes to how they get to survive. And that leeway is cut by 50 and 60% for black people. Black women only make 58 cents on the dollar. I remember talking about that at work and everybody acting like I'm saying something crazy. Well, why can't we get pay equity? Making all these excuses. I can't tell you how many times in my career I found out that people with 10 and 15 years less experience making 10, 20, and 30% more money than me. And then finding out, I'm being billed out at $1,300 a damn hour, but I'm only making $135,000. when I tell y'all the concerns that black women have about white women are justified, but we've been gaslit just like everybody in America has been gaslit about everything, right? The colonizers been gaslighting us all. But that gaslighting by white women is crazy. It's crazy. So whether we're looking at racial discrimination, economic inequality, or healthcare disparities, right? It doesn't matter. We are always being harmed, and white women are the ones executing it. Yeah, patriarchy got it all set up, but white women do all the work for patriarchy. Patriarchy runs itself. Patriarchy don't need a man to do nothing. They go out and do all the assaults. That's why they got so much time for, you know, human trafficking and assaults. They got time for that because white women are doing all the other work. So they got time to do all that and to harm kids, harm elderly, and be greedy. Because white women are making sure that the slaves are all working. And they do that through the subjugation and abuse of black women. And so all of like unpacking that stuff, right, really, brings me to figuring out that it's like, no, I gotta decenter white women because so back then I'm on LinkedIn and I'm following black women and white women, following black women, but following the few white women because they seem to stick out. Because black women can't speak up that much about racism. Because when we speak up, we lose our job, we lose our house, we lose our family, we lose our way of life, we lose all our white friends when black women speak up. But when a white woman speaks up about racism, it's like, oh, you're so brave. Ooh. And people, pay her money and come listen to her talk. Right. But nobody wants to hear a black woman talk about it unless they want to be able to, get us to talk about it in a way that they want us to talk about it. And so I got caught up following these white women that was, making $1 off of black women's trauma and black people's trauma and pain. So much so that I even entered into working with two other white women and another black woman trying to do some work to do like interracial healing. Well, and reckoning. Well, that didn't work because the white women in charge of it was treating me like I was the damn token. Then when I tried to bring that up, we'll talk about the white violence. Not only did they steal money from me, but then one of them interfered with my relationship with my daughter and caused even more problems. So there is no benefit to being in relationships with white women other than if you believe the harm that you are receiving is outweighed by whatever benefit you think you get. But I can tell you, as a person that has been in relationships in with white women for since 10th grade, since 6th grade, since I was 10 years old, that the relationships have only ever been harmful. They've been manipulative. They've been abusive. And the few relationships that I still do have with white women, one I've had for like years and years. This is like going on 9 years. And it's only because I'm very, very direct with this person. And this person really cares about me and our friendship. And this person also knew other black people and had other black friends before me. A lot of times the white women online that you don't know in real life, they don't really know any black people. They don't really have black women friends. And so they don't even really know how to do anything except for tokenize. And then they're around black women who are the only black woman in a space. So when a black woman is the only black woman in a space, then she oftentimes has to be like a Cooney type of Candace Owens type person. Well, I'm never going to be a Cooney type Candace Owens person. I'm going to be polite. Yes. I'm going to maybe code switch at the bank if it's a white lady because I know she's going to be a bitch to me. But normally at the bank, it's like a black lady or Indian lady or customer or Latino or Asian person. They're not too bad. But an Asian person, if they are East Asian or if they're from like if they're like Chinese, Vietnamese or Japanese, something like that, Korean, they don't like black people. So I try not to get in a line. I try to always go to a darker person. The darkest skinned person is the person I will wait to wait on me. Because I look at it as I have my chances of being treated better if a darker skinned person is working on me, because at least they have been discriminated against for being dark. And so they may either treat me worse, but the likelihood is that they'll treat me like they want to be treated. So there's that. So with the understanding that the abuse that black women suffer, and understanding that white women know about it, understanding that they have nothing inside of them that makes them not do it. There's no impetus for them to not do it because they know they can get away with it, and they're going to get away with it because every system, every structure, every process, every procedure is set up for black people to always be in the wrong. So what we do is play this tenuous game of tippy toe on eggshell, broken glass, mixed with, you know, drops of white phosphorus coming down and trying to survive. Trying to survive. And that gets exhausting. And what I literally just found out a month from the day I'm recording this, and I'm recording this on 123 that I am just finding out, just learning, just realizing that I had not healed from all of my white woman workplace trauma. I haven't healed from that. And I'm just now finding out that healing, and this is the deep part, y'all, healing requires rest. You can't heal if you don't rest. I've been working on this healing journey, and I haven't taken the time to rest because I've been trying to build a business. I've been trying to get clients. I've been trying to build a brand. I've been trying to figure out graphics. I've been trying to figure out technology. I've been doing. I haven't rested. And now I'm tired of shit. I'm exhausted. I'm tired, and my body has forced me to rest. And so I'm focused on rest first for healing, and healing for joy. Unspeakable healing for joy. Rest. And so to rest, in order to rest, I have to decenter white women, and I have to focus on my own well-being, my own self-living. That means, what do I have to do for me? That means I have to rest. So since I haven't rested ever, I got 54 years of rest that I'm about to get on. So what does that rest look like? For me, I'm telling you, that rest looks like so many beaches, so many beaches. I'm going to be taking planes on which I'm going to rest, to go rest as often as possible. And I'm going to rest among my people. I'm going to rest among black people. I'm going to rest among the indigenous people of Africa. And I cannot wait. And so I am so excited to explore all of the ways I'm going to decenter white women, all of the ways I'm going to decenter the dominant culture in my life. And I'm going to unpack those with you. And so just to kind of give you a little what's up with the what's up. So for the next podcast, we're going to break down a little bit more around, the struggles that I've had in corporate America, the struggles that black women have had. And we're going to talk about what those power dynamics look like. And really it's going to start with acknowledging whiteness. So I'll see y'all next time, where we decenter whiteness, we focus on our own well-being, and we continue our journey to self-empowerment.